It's really a pleasure to be back here, and it's amazing for me always to see that on the busy life that I'm sure that everybody in Los Angeles has. And the summertime is the most fun and the busiest and everything. You make time for learning, you make time for growing, you make time to hang out in the right places, and that's really something that is honorable to you. And that is what a person needs when they're living in this tinsel town of Los Angeles, to make sure that they're able to hold on to their ruchnius. You have to be in places that are going to give you the ruchnius. And if you're here in this program, and you're surrounding yourself with these young women, so that means that you understand what ruchnius, what spirituality is all about. And it should be a big schus for all of you. And whatever it is that you need in the brachas in your life, the bracha, the birchas HaTorah, the blessings of the Torah, and the blessings of being in a good place around good people should stand by your side. I feel a little bit out of place here tonight because we switched the directions. So it's like a whole different perspective on the shir tonight. But it's very good because I'd like to give tonight what I think is a different perspective on this concept of v'ahavta l'reacha kamocha, of loving your fellow Jew the way that you love yourself. The whole concept of AHAVAS YISRAEL, of loving Klal Yisrael, and sinas chinam, and staying away from those things that are going to encroach on hating another Jew. We all know the basics. I don't want to speak about the basics. You all know it. Love your Jew, your fellow Jew, the way that you love yourself. Great mitzvah in the Torah is what brings peace to Klal Yisrael. If you have sinas chinam, the second base of English is destroyed because of it. Klal Yisrael's in Golis. Many machlekes start because of such a thing. We all know the basic truths, and you all know to stay away, and you all know that you have to love every single Jew. You all know that. So I don't want to speak about the basics. I'm assuming that this is a crowd that already understands the basics in all these inyanim. I want to share something with you that I just stumbled upon, almost by mistake, a few weeks ago. And it's it changed the way that I understand this mitzvah and the way that we're going to approach AHAVAS YISRAEL in our lives. We'll start with the beautiful sefer, the Beis HaLevi, that he wrote on AHAVAS YISRAEL. And he begins with the following words. Mitzvah za'ava, the mitzvah, the commandment to love, l'kol echad, to every single Jew. He mitzvahs aseh, it's a positive commandment. We know this. Shenemar, because it says in the Torah, v'ahavta l'reacha kamocha. You have to love your fellow Jew the way that you love yourself. And it says in the Gemara, al mitzvah aseh zu shiklal koil haTorah kula. We know the famous words of Rabbi Akiva. Zeh klal gadol ba'Torah. Before it was a Shweki song, it was actually a statement in Chazal. And that is, it's a major principle in all of the mitzvahs of the Torah is, you must love your fellow Jew the way that you love yourself. But what does it mean over here? Klal kol haTorah kula. It is a principle that encompasses all of the Torah in its entirety. Why? Now listen what he writes. Ki mainas hakina ve'akas milev, because it will prevent jealousy and anger coming into your heart. V'kedoime, and similar other bad midos that a person will have. If you love your fellow Jew the way that you love yourself, it will keep all of the negativity out of your heart. What is the Beis HaLevi saying? I think that the Beis HaLevi is saying something that if he wouldn't say it, we probably would never say such a thing on our own. Says the Beis HaLevi, do you know who is the one that is going to gain the most from performing the mitzvah v'ahavta l'reacha kamocha? We look at it very often as, in order to preserve the sanctity of Klal Yisrael, in order to preserve the peace amongst the Jewish people, in order to be zeicher to bring Mashiach Tzidkenu, because he hasn't been here for 2,000 years, we must make sure that we do v'ahavta l'reacha kamocha. Says the Beis Halevi, I want to teach you something different. And that is that if you will excel in the mitzvah of Ve'afta l'recha kamocha, you're going to have real AHAVAS YISRAEL, loving a fellow Jew. You know who the greatest beneficiary of this mitzvah is going to be? You are the one that is going to benefit. Because even though that it's natural and it's normal to be jealous of people, even though that it's natural to get angry and frustrated with people, even though it's normal to be arrogant and not to be humble around certain people, depending on you or maybe every person, it's all natural. That's the way that we are. We're human beings. We are fallible. But if a person develops and they inculcate and they drive into their hearts AHAVAS YISRAEL, loving another Jew, you will be so much in love with every single Jew that you see, you'll never be jealous of anything they have. You'll never get angry with anything they do to you. You'll never get frustrated. You'll never be perturbed. You'll never be incensed. You'll never gloat over them and be haughty over them. Never. Because the trait of AHAVAS YISRAEL, of loving another Jew, becomes something that is such a fundamental part of your life. It overtakes you. If you love somebody, why would you ever get angry at them? If you love somebody, you should be happy with whatever it is that they have. Why would you be jealous of them? If you love somebody and you know that it's really not nice to be such an arrogant, haughty person, and to rule over them, and to look down in disdain upon them, why would you ever do that to them? If you love another person, says the Beis Halevi, the greatest benefactor from that love is going to be you. Because you are going to become an exponentially greater person. If you work out of your system all of the bad midos and character traits that are in there, if you let go of all the anger and all the hatred and all the jealousy and all the things that eat you up alive inside, if you let go of it because you have reached a level in AHAVAS YISRAEL, in loving your fellow Jew the way that you love yourself, so then not only are they going to benefit, but ultimately you are the greatest beneficiary. And these are really the words of the Vilna Gaon. The Vilna Gaon tells us in his classic work, Even Shlema, something that is fascinating to hear. Everybody or anyone who doesn't know, the Vilna Gaon spent 22 waking hours a day. You know, in LA it's like the opposite, 22 sleeping hours. We get up a couple hours, we do our thing, and we go back to sleep. But the Vilna Gaon spent 22 waking hours a day. Most of the time that he was awake, he was busy learning Torah. The 2 hours that he slept a day was not 2 hours in one geschmack, 2 hours sleep. It was 4 half-an-hour intervals, meaning when his body simply needed to rest at one time of the day, he had a half an hour. Then he got up and learned another 10-hour stretch, and then there was another half-an-hour break, and then there was another 5-hour stretch, and so on and so forth. 4 times a day at a half an hour each, he went to sleep. 22 hours, he was awake. Majority of the time, he was learning. When he wasn't learning, he was davening. When he wasn't davening, he was probably giving a bracha here and a bracha there. He had to eat a little bit. What did he eat? He didn't have such tasty treats like you have on the table tonight. He would take one piece of bread, soak it in water, make a bracha, swallow it whole, and then he would bench as quickly as he could because he didn't want to waste his precious time eating in this world. The Vilna Gaon was a man that lived completely in the most lofty spiritual heights of all time. And his whole life was Torah. That's it. And in Even Shlema, the Vilna Gaon says, let me tell you what is the meaning and the secret of life. Now, after that introduction about who the Vilna Gaon was, so we would assume that if the Vilna Gaon is going to tell you, you know why you were born? You know why you came to this world? To be awake 22 hours a day, to eat a piece of bread that was soaked in water so you can swallow it quickly, and to spend the rest of your waking hours learning. That's what you are here for. And if you're a woman, and therefore you don't have the mitzvah to go to the Beis Midrash in yeshiva, make sure you do everything in your powers to support your husband and send your children off and find ways to be involved in organizations, make the platters for the koilel, do whatever you could to make sure that there are people learning as much as is humanly possible. If I was the Vilna Gaon, and that's the way that I was living my life, and you would ask me in the Vilna Gaon podcast, what do you say, Vilna Gaon? What is the meaning of life? I would assume that's what the meaning of life is. But the Vilna Gaon did not say that. Iker chayus ha'adam, the main life of a person. Remember, his main life, 22 hours a day, awake, learning. Hulis chazik tamid, is to strengthen yourself constantly. Bishviras hamidois, in breaking your bad character traits. Says the Vilna Gaon, the main reason why you came into this world was not for the learning, was not for the davening, was not for linksem. That's not the main reason you came into this world. You came into this world for yourself, to examine your midos, your character, to find those that are flawed, and we probably don't have to look too far, and begin to do everything within your power to do shviras hamidos, to break the bad midos that a person has. V'im, and if a person is not busy spending their waking hours breaking their bad midos, you're busy doing other, I'm sure, important things over here in Los Angeles, California. I can't imagine what could be more important than this, but I'm sure you could find things. Lama loy chayim. Why in the world are you alive? Says the Vilna Gaon. You had a neshama. You have a neshama. And that neshama was up in Shemayim. And in Shemayim, the neshama was basking in the glory of the Shekhinah. It was surrounded by malachim, by angels. It was so close to Hashem. Maybe underneath Kisei HaKavod, the throne of glory. Maybe even above the throne of glory. And it was absorbing all of the sanctity, all of the Kedusha, all of the goodness of Hashem. And HaKadosh Baruch Hu said, Neshama le, my child, guess what? It's time to go down to that world. And the Neshama says, which world? It's right over there, Pico Robertson, next to Lenny's, right over there. And the Neshama says, are you kidding me? I came to this world for burritos? That's not why I came to this world. Shem, I'm up here in the world of Neshamas. I'm here in the world of Ruchnias. I'm here in the world of Kedusha. I'm by the Shekhinah. You're going to send me down there? What, because they have a good deal at Kashko? That's why I should come down to this world? I want to stay up here. Says HaKadosh Baruch Hu, but if I leave you up here in Shemayim, if I leave you as just a neshama, just as a soul, you'll never accomplish the mission of why I created you. Says the neshama, what's the job, Hashem? What do you want me to do? Says HaKadosh Baruch Hu, I want you to go down there, and I'm going to fill you up with bad midos, and your job is going to be to break the midos, ra'os that HaKadosh Baruch Hu I have given you, and you become a tzaddik, a tzaddikis, a great person. And im lav, and if you don't do that, then you know what? Your whole life, waste of time. Says the Vilna Gaon, Hashem has sent us into this world for one thing and one thing only, to become the greatest spiritual being that we could become, and the way that we do that is by working on ourselves, by conquering the negative, by getting rid of our jealousy, by getting rid of our laziness, by getting rid of our anger, by getting rid of all the negative midos inside, wipe them away, and become a tzaddik, become a righteous person. Says the Beis HaLevi, you know why AHAVAS YISRAEL is such an amazing thing? Because AHAVAS YISRAEL will force you to find a way to develop your Ava, your love for another Jew. And when the love is overflowing so much, you're not going to have a bad midah anymore. Bad midahs are for the people that in this world think about themselves. Bad midahs are for the people in this world that are focused on their own selfish goals in life. Bad midahs are for the person that don't realize that there's somebody else in this world that also needs recognition, that needs support, that needs an ear, that needs help, that needs something. But midas taiva is good midas, good character traits. All of that is for a person who develops an enormous amount of love for every single Jew. Then you can wipe away and you can do shviras hamidas. You could break the bad traits that are there inside of you. And if you don't, says the Vilna Gaon, Salam Aleichem, so why did you come to this world? For popcorn and Diet Coke? Sushi? Sushi too? Is that why you came to this world? You came to this world for so much more. One of the great tzaddikim of our generation who has given his entire life to AHAVAS YISRAEL is someone by the name of Dovid Grossman. He's the famous Rav of Migdal Emek in Eretz Yisrael. He's probably been Mekarev more Yidden to Yiddishkeit over the last 50 years of his life than anybody else in the entire world. And everybody who has ever met him and anyone that has ever seen him and whoever read stories about him knows one thing. His love of his fellow Jew is enormous. No matter where they come from, when he began his whole career as a Mekarev, he went into a small town. And in that town he found a discotheque. And he walked into the discotheque, a Hasidish Rav, long, tall, with long payas and a long coat. And he walked into a discotheque where there were boys and girls, Israeli, Jewish boys and girls, dancing to some crazy music. Probably the kind of, this is 50 years ago, what our Jewish music sounds like today was probably what that sounded like back then. And he walked in and he looked around and he saw all the people that were there. And he walked over to the DJ and he says, do me a favor, put this album in. And the DJ said, well, what? He says, trust me, put it in. And the next thing you know, the DJ puts in the album, there's some Hasidic music playing in this discotheque, and he tells all the boys, on this side, girls, on that side. And he starts dancing a horror together with all the boys, and they're dancing. And this is how he became the discotheque rabbi. When he came back after his first meetings over there with the Jews that were so unaffiliated and so far off the derech, so non-religious, his father was a very big tzaddik, asked his son, how can you do that? You're a nice Hasidic boy. How can you go into a discotheque? How can you be in that place of impurity? How do you do that? So he looked at his father in the eyes and he says, Tati, Abba. He says, when I walk into that place, all I see are neshamas. I don't see anything else. I don't see the tattoos. I don't see the long hair. I don't see the drugs. I don't see how far away they are from religion. I don't see anything like that. All I see are the neshamas of every single Jew that's there. And his father stared very deep into his son's eyes and he saw that he was being honest and sincere, and he told him, if that's the case, keep doing what you're doing. So many wanted to know, where did Rav Grossman develop this midah, this trait? of AHAVAS YISRAEL, of loving his Jew, every single Jew, the way that he loves himself, with no boundaries, with no limits, with tremendous humility. How did he get to such a level like that? So he never said exactly, but he told over the following story. There's a very big tzaddik that he was connected to for decades. Someone by the name of Rabbi YISRAEL Yitzchak Meshi Zahav, a big makubal, a very big Kabbalistic rabbi in Eretz Yisrael, who lived in Yerushalayim in the city of Katamon. And he said, this man exuded Avas Yisrael like you've never seen before. The smile, the warmth, the love to every single Jew, no matter what their background was, wherever they're coming from, age, nothing mattered to him. He loved, and he would smile with this warmth. You could melt from his smile. So Rav Grossman once asked this Rav YISRAEL Yitzchak, tell me, how do you do it? Where did you get this love for every single Jew the way that you have? What's the secret of your Avas Yisrael? So he said, I'll tell you a story. He said, many years ago when my wife and I first got married, we were living in a beautiful, spacious apartment in the city of Yafo. Yafo is right near Tel Aviv. And he said everything was wonderful, beautiful. We started having children, Bli Ayin Hara. Our family was growing. I was sitting and learning in Koilel. And in the olden days, so 50, 60 years ago, Tel Aviv was like the place to be. Now, you can go someplace else if you go to visit Eretz Yisrael. And then my kids started getting a little bit older. And we needed a cheder. We needed a good school for them. And I saw that in Yafo, there is no school for them. So we found in Tel Aviv a much better school, a nice cheder. They have good education over there. My kids will be well taken care of. So we sold our spacious, beautiful, big apartment in Yafo, and we moved to a small 2-bedroom apartment in Tel Aviv. But I didn't care. Chinuch, raising children, that's the most important thing. Whether the apartment is big or small, that doesn't really matter. What matters is my children will be taken care of. Their neshama is the best possible. One day I'm walking down the street in Tel Aviv. Remember, I'm only married maybe 5, 6, 7, 8 years. My kids are just going to cheder now for the first time. I'm walking down the street and I see a poor man, wretched man, wailing away and crying. I said, Rabbi, what's the matter? Everything okay? No, Rebbe, it's terrible. I said, what's the matter? He said, I lost my job. I thought I made a special deal with somebody and they took advantage of me. I lost all my money. I lost my job. And I was just evicted from my apartment, me together with my wife and my children. And I have no place to go. So Rabbi Yitzchak says, oh, it's terrible. I feel so sad for you. I wish there was some way that I could help you. So the man who was not religious looks at Rabbi YISRAEL Yitzchak, who's a Hasidic Yid, and he says, there is a way you could help me. Would you mind if my family and I came and lived in your apartment just until things settled down? So he looks at him and he says, wow, what a great idea. What an opportunity of chesed. Certainly, come with me. And he grabs his wife and his children, all chilonim, from the streets of Tel Aviv. And they're walking with this Hasidic young man into his house. And he walks in, he says, just let me tell my wife what's going on. I'm going to make sure it's a good time. He walks in and he tells his wife, he met a Yid, down and out, got kicked out of their apartment, have no place to go, no money, nothing. They need a place to stay until they can get back on their feet. You have a problem with that, my dear wife? Whatever you say, my dear husband. Be a pleasure. And the door opens up and in walks the Chiloni family into the house of the Meshizavi family. They have 2 bedrooms. They move their own children out of the kids' room. They put up a curtain down the middle of the living room. And he says to his new house guest, this side and this room belongs to you. This side and this room belongs to us. And we're going to get along just fine. Wow, Rabbi, thank you so much. Thank you. Fine. Comes along Friday night, the first Shabbos that their new guests are in the house. And Rav Meshi Zavi begins making Kiddush. And suddenly, these guests that are in their bedroom, they're not religious, they don't keep Shabbos, he turns on the radio blasting. And while this Rav Yisrael Yitzchak is making Kiddush, the radio is blaring loud. And the kids got so offended. They start going to the shh. Our dad is making Kiddush. He's not listening. He doesn't care. He's not a big fan of Shabbos. The Suda goes on and they're singing Zmiros. The guy cranks up the radio even louder. They start saying Divei Torah, cranks it up a little bit louder. And the meal goes on like this. The kids are going wild. And the father says, don't worry, al tidag. The week goes by, comes along the next Shabbos. The rabbi stands there with his Kiddush cup, he begins making Kiddush, crank up the radio, and the music starts blaring. And the kids start going crazy, shh. And the Suda goes on the same thing, and it goes on these 3 or 4 weeks in a row. They're giving this guy everything, housing, room, board, food. The guy was a blacksmith. So Rabbi Meshi Zavi was sending people to him to go and do business. No matter how much this guy tried to drive him crazy, he was sending him clients and business. After the 4 Shabbos, in the middle of the week, the door opens up. And this man, the house guest, walks over to Rabbi Meshi Zavi and he says, do you have a pair of tefillin? He said, yes. He says, could I please put them on? Sure, certainly, come. He grabs his tefillin. He begins helping him put them on. And the guy's putting them on, and as he's putting them on, he's crying. And when he takes them off, he says, I want to tell you something. I hate religious people. And when I say hate, I don't mean stam, just hate them. I cannot stand religious people. And you took me into your house, and I wanted nothing more than to drive you crazy. And that's why every Friday night, I blast the radio. That's why I try to ruin your Kiddush and ruin your Zmirot, and I try to ruin your Divei Torah. I tried. And what do? You don't say a word. Not only that, you send me clients, you try to get me back on my feet in business. And I turned to my wife and I said, if this is what it means to be a religious Jew, then I want a piece of that as well. I try to drive them crazy, and he just keeps showering me with love. I try to drive away from the Shabbos table, and he sends me clientele, and they give us food, and they don't charge us rent. If that's the level of love that a Jew can come to for another Jew, then I want to be like this also. This man went on to be Chayze B'Tshuva. His wife became a Balas Tshuva. His children all became Frum. Today one of his children is one of the Gedolei Ador. It doesn't say in the story who it is. I wish I would know who it is. All because one man decided, yes, it's inconvenient. And yes, I'm sure that he was getting upset. And yes, I'm sure he was thinking to himself, Azah chutzpah? I bring you into my house. I give you my bedroom. I give you our food. I take care of you. And this is how you treat me? I'm sure that he could have thought such a thing. But why did I come to this world? I came to this world to break my midas, my character. And since that's the purpose of life, and AHAVAS YISRAEL transcends all of the bad midas, you get rid of them. I'm not going to be angry with you because I love you. I'm not going to be arrogant with you because I care about you. I'm not going to be nasty to you. I'm not going to get jealous of you because I care about you as much as I care about myself. Through the mitzvah of loving your fellow Jew, you will become a much greater person. And this really is where I saw this idea for the first time. It's in a beautiful print of the Igeres Ramban, the letter of the Ramban that he wrote to his son. where he writes the great secrets of life and how a person has to work on themselves and develop their midas and be humble and so on and so forth. And in the commentary of Rav Dan Segal, who today is one of the great Gedolei Yisrael, I don't know if you were following the news at all, about 2 weeks ago, there were 5 elderly Gedolei Yisrael that came to America to raise $107 million for Klal Yisrael, for the yeshivas and the kollalim in Eretz Yisrael. One of them was Rav Dan Segal. He's one of the biggest mashgichim in the world today, and he has many svarim on Mussar works. And he says a fascinating thing over here. And he says, when a person will humble themselves before another, the way that you act and your deeds, this is a great, lofty level. You yourself will merit to get very close to Hashem. When you are humble, when you don't care so much about your own honor and your own glory and your own reputation, when you can see the good in another Jew, when you can hold back your anger, you know what the benefit is? Kirvas Elokim. You're going to get close to Hashem. HaKadosh Baruch Hu Sames Kulanu B'matzav Chevrasi. HaKadosh Baruch Hu has placed all of us in a world of people. We are around human beings all of the time. We are around chavrusas, friends, and the like constantly. That's the world that we live in. We're not recluses. We're not monks that go and live on the top of a mountain all by ourselves. You're not the Buddha man who went to the top of the mountain and sat under a tree for 7 days meditating on some idea and concept of godliness. We are human beings. HaKadosh Baruch Hu put us into this world. We have friends. We have family. We have people all around us. There's the cashier at the store. Everywhere you go, there's always an opportunity for another interaction with human beings. So therefore, why did HaKadosh Baruch Hu do this? Kidei she'adam yuchol liknois ulishtalem b'midos hatoivos. You know what the reason is? So that each and every one of us should acquire and perfect our midos, toivos, our good traits. The reason that HaKadosh Baruch Hu put you in a world with people is because they are going to be the ones that will challenge your midos the most. They are the ones that will annoy you the most. They are the ones that will let you down the most. They are the ones that will aggravate you the most. And how you are going to respond, and how you are going to deal with them, and how you are going to act above the lowliness of bad midos and transcend all of that. You are the great beneficiary of all of that, which you will be kaina, you will acquire, and you will be mishtalam, you will complete. Midas, toivos, great midas for you. And then he says an amazing word. We know the famous words of the Mishnah and the Gemara that tell us the following. That kol b'nei adam sheba'olam nivro bishvalai, the world was created for us. Right? Chayiv adam loimer, a person is obligated to say, bishvali nivra ha'olam. The world was created for me. What does that mean? Everything that you come in contact with in your world, every person that you come in contact with in your reality, every situation which is a people situation, which is a human situation, which is dealing with other people, it's bishvili nivra olam, that was created just for me. Why was it created just for me? Kidei shal yadam, because through that situation of that person that HaKadosh Baruch Hu sent my way, who yuchal lishtalam b'midosav lis'alos, you will be able to correct and elevate and perfect your midos. The more annoying the person is, the better that person should be your friend. Don't let go. Because you will be forced to constantly work on your midos. The more annoying that somebody is, and they cling on you, and they hang on you, and they call you when it's not a good time. The Rav Moshe Feinstein, Zecher Tzadik Livrocha, was probably one of the busiest men of his generation. And every Erev Shabbos, Friday afternoon, his phone would ring. And it was a poor almana, it was a widowed woman, and she would call Rav Moshe Feinstein Gadol Ador every week, and she would say, Rosh Hashiva, what time is candle lighting this week? And he would take the call, and he would say, let me check. And he would look on the paper, and he would say, this week, it's 8:12. You should be gebenched, have a wonderful Shabbat. Oh, thank you, Rosh Hashiva. He said, anytime. Call back anytime. And she did for years and years and years. She called every Erev Shabbos. Once one of his children were in the room, and they said, Tati, you take her call every week? She calls to ask? There's newspapers, there's calendars, you can go anywhere to get information. And he said, it matters so much to her that she calls me and she hears my voice and gets my bracha. Of course I'm going to take the call every week. Says Rav Dan Segel, you should know, Bishvili Nivra Olam, the world was created for me, and everything that's inside of that world, every person and all of their problems, it's all for me. Every person and all of their idiosyncrasies, it's all for me. Every person and all their annoyances, it's all for me. Why? Because I will find a way to work on myself and become a tzaddik as a result of it. A much better person as a result of it. And when I develop that AHAVAS YISRAEL, the love that I have for my fellow Jew, it will become something that is so natural. You will not get upset with people that everybody else is getting annoyed with. You will not get disappointed in the person that lets everybody else down. No, instead, you'll see something good in them and you'll be mechazik them, you'll strengthen them. Because when you realize that the purpose of life is to break your bad midas, and the fact that HaKadosh Baruch Hu put this person in my life and he gave me an opportunity to work on myself and overcome my negativity, all if I have the positive Ava, love of my fellow Jew, then says Rav Dan Segel, that's what Chazal are talking about. Chazal are referring to that the world was created just for me. What if the next time that somebody really, really is getting on your nerves, really bothering you, really driving you crazy, and you're about to get angry? How about, that person who calls? Caller ID, by the way, is like one of the biggest evils of our day and age. No, I'm not in the mood. I know, she calls, she can't stop talking, she just blah, 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 I'm not interested. What if the next time that name comes up on caller? You know what they do then? Then they hang up, and then they call back like 2 minutes later. They think you didn't hear the phone ring. So they call back, and then 10 minutes later they call back again. Okay, so the first time you couldn't conquer your Yitzhar. Second time, it's too much. Third time they're calling back already. Maybe they actually want to talk to you, that's why they're calling. What if you think to yourself, Bishvili Nivra Ha'olam, the world was created for me. Hashem has sent this person into my life in order that I can work on myself and become a better person. If you'll behave in such a way, and you'll act in such a way, and you'll transcend and elevate and raise yourself up in such a way, then the AHAVAS YISRAEL that you are involved with and engaged with, what does it do? It makes you into such a greater person. You are fulfilling your purpose in this world. Shviras Hamida is to break all of the bad traits that you have, wipe them away. Like it says in Pirkei Avos, Beis Shammai said, Hevi mekabel es kol ha'adam b'sever panim yafais. You have to receive every single person with a shining countenance. That means everyone, even the ones that drive you crazy. Even the ones that annoy you, even the ones that, oh, I just have to see her right now. I wish I went down the wrong street. Even her you have to, with a big smile. And the more hard it is, the bigger smile you have to give. Because I have to say to myself, Baruch Hashem, HaKadosh Baruch Hu put this person in my life. Because of them, I'm becoming great. And greater every single day. And that's why Hashem sent my neshama down to this world to perfect the need of AHAVAS YISRAEL, which will change and rectify all of my negative traits in my life. And that's why it says in the Ramchal writes in Mesilas Yesharim the following words: Ki ein HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Listen what other benefits you get. Ki ein HaKadosh Baruch Hu oyev. Hashem only loves Ela lemi she'oyev es Yisrael, the one who loves Klal Yisrael. What, you think you don't annoy Hashem? You think that you're not frustrating? Here we go again. Oh, please, Hashem, give me what I need. How many times can you beg me, says HaKadosh Baruch Hu? Hashem doesn't have caller ID. So he doesn't have a choice. When you stand in Shemona Esrei and you start crying, please, Hashem, please, just this time, please, one more time. You want Hashem to listen to you, don't you? You don't have to swipe away. No, I'm sorry, I can't hear you. You want HaKadosh Baruch Hu to answer your call every single time. Says the Ramchal, if you love other Yidden in Klal Yisrael, and you overlook the annoyances of other people in Klal Yisrael, and you accept them for their faults, and no matter how much they aggravate you, you always love them, says Hashem, then guess what? I love you. And if you don't love my children, I won't love you either. And if you turn off the phone, I'm not going to listen to what you have to say. You need something? I can't hear I can't hear you. Just like you could not hear them, I cannot hear you. The kol mashal the magdil avasa Yisrael. The more that you increase your love of Klal Yisrael, gam HaKadosh Baruch Hu magdil alav, HaKadosh Baruch Hu will increase His love for you. Could you ask for anything more? Doesn't everybody want Hashem's love? Hashem's love means He's with you, He's watching you, He's holding your hand, He doesn't let go, He hears your tefillos, He answers them, He brings you the brachas that you're looking for. Doesn't everybody want that? Says the Ramchal, I'm giving you simple advice over here. You increase your love of Hashem's children. Because as he goes down and says a beautiful mashal, just like a king loves the people that love his children and take care of his children, so too HaKadosh Baruch Hu, our King, our Father in heaven, He loves those that take care of His children in this world and love His children unconditionally. And that's the way that we become the person we are supposed to be. And if we don't do that, we're never going to become tzaddikim. We're never going to work on ourselves. We're never going to fulfill the reason why we came into this world, like the Vilna Gaon says, to break your bad traits. But if you look at AHAVAS YISRAEL as your benefit, you're becoming the person you're supposed to be. People that are not pains and they're not burdens, they're a bracha. The more annoying people that HaKadosh Baruch Hu sends in your life, the more brachas you have. The more that somebody embarrasses you and shames you, and still you can love them, you have to go to sleep then and say, thank you, Hashem, that you sent this moment in my life. Because of that, I'm a much greater person. I'm fulfilling my talk and my purpose. And when a person lives like that, so then you become a partner with HaKadosh Baruch Hu in this world. you become just like you're taking care of his children. HaKadosh Baruch Hu says, I'm going to take care of you. I want to leave you off with one last Maisa. This story happened about 11 years ago. I took my oldest son to Eretz Yisrael before his bar mitzvah, and the plan was to go to the Gedolei Yisrael to get brachas, to go to the Kaisel and to put on tefillin for the first time, to go to the Kivei Tzadikim, the graves of Tzadikim, and to daven. And Baruch Hashem, on that trip, we were zeicher to see many, many Gedolei, many great leaders of Klal Yisrael. One that we wanted to see was Rav Yitzchak Shiner. Rav Yitzchak Shiner was the Rosh Yeshiva of Kamenetz. At the time, he was one of the elderly Rosh Yeshivas of Klal Yisrael. And one of the great advantages is that he's really an American-born Rosh Yeshiva, and he speaks English, and he's got a good sprach. He knows how to schmooze it up with the American boys. I wanted to be able to go there to get a bracha from him. So we had somebody that was helping us get in, and every day that he would call, the Rosh Yeshiva was sick, he wasn't feeling well, he's not taking visitors. It's our last day in Eretz Yisrael. This family, this young couple who told us that they had the connection of Rav Yitzchak Shiner, they called and said, you know what, he said he could take us today. So we got into the cab, we came down to their apartment in Yerushalayim over there, and we're getting ready to leave. As we're getting ready to leave, the phone rings and he said, sorry, Rosh Yeshiva's not feeling well. He can't see you. He's very sorry. Okay, what could we do? We tried our best. Wasn't meant to be. So we get back in a cab and we're heading back to our apartment where we're staying in Harnof. This was like in the Beis Yisrael area. And as we're in the taxi, about halfway to our destination, my phone rings and it's this guy and he says, they just called, we can go see the Rosh Yeshiva. Okay, what's going on? You could, you can, you could now, let's go. We tell the taxi driver to turn around, we go back, and we go to the house of Rav Yitzchak Shiner. Now when I say the house, it's an apartment, maybe the entire apartment is the size of this room. Maybe. We come to the door, knock on the door. The door opens up, one of his grandsons is standing there. Shiva Bach, one of his grandsons. And we said, oh, we're here to see the Rosh Yeshiva. He says, you are? I said, yes. He said, someone told you to come? Yes. The Rosh Yeshiva told us to come. He did? Yes. He's sick, he's in bed. They told us to come. He goes back, he walks across the living room, which is about from here to here, and he goes into his grandfather's bedroom. And we hear a little conversation, and he says, okay. He comes back and he says, okay, you can come, but very quickly come in, get a bracha, then you have to leave. He's sick, he's not feeling well, he doesn't have energy to schmooze and to talk to him. Fine, he's just going to get a bracha. Father with his son from America came to get a bracha for the bar mitzvah. Fine, that's good with us. We walk into this great, venerable Rosh Yeshiva's bedroom. Okay, imagine Joe Biden lets you into his bedroom when he's not feeling well to have a conversation with him. This man is, believe me, light years beyond where the President of the United States is. We walk into his bedroom. He's in his bed in pajamas, okay, with his tzitzis over his pajamas, a pile of svarim on one side, a pile of svarim on the other side, surrounded by some of his grandsons, and he's busy. He's not feeling well. Remember that he couldn't see us the whole week. He's busy learning intricate sugyas parts of the Gemara. And he's lying in the bed. And we walk in. And so he's probably at this point in his life, upper 80s. And he props himself up on his elbow, and he says, with a big smile on his face, that's what he was known for, his big smile, come in. And so we walk in, and he sees my son, bar mitzvah boy, and he starts giving him brachas. And they told us we're going to get in for the bracha and we have to leave. But I saw that Rav Shiner was, he was in a very jovial mood and he was very kind to us and he was not throwing us out. So we start talking. And I said, could I ask Rav Shiva a question? He says, sure, why not? So I told him I'm a Rav in Los Angeles. And I'm dealing in the world of Kiruv as well. And I said, what is the main thing that I could give over to an unaffiliated Jew to bring them close to Yiddishkeit? So he looks at me and he says, a warm smile. He says, you know that a person in the world today, very empty. It's a cold world. They don't have much going for themselves. If they will see in you a warm smile, and AHAVAS YISRAEL in love, and realize that you care about them, that will be the best thing you can do to begin to bring them in to the world of Yiddishkeit. And he said, Rabbi YISRAEL Salanter, who was the head of the Muslim movement, had shiurim that he used to give on how to smile. How to smile to the postman, how to smile at the fellow in shul, how to smile to your wife. And he used to teach his Talmidim how to smile to everybody. It's so important. And then he's telling us from the Nefesh HaChaim that you didn't come into this world for yourself, you came into this world for other people. We're not here for us, we're here for other people. So here you have the Rosh Hashiva, sick, in bed, in his pajamas, propping himself up in the bed, and he's smiling at us, telling us, you're not in this world for yourself, you're here for everybody else. At this time, as the conversation is going on, my son, who's not yet bar mitzvah, starts shoving the camera. Remember those things, cameras people used to have? He's shoving the camera into my hand. And I look at my son, I said, what are you doing? He said, I want a picture with the Rosh Hashiva. So I looked at my son, I said, he's in his pajamas. I'm not going to ask him for this. He says, Doctor, I want a picture. We were taking pictures with all the rabbis. I want a picture. I said, he's in his pajamas. I'm not going to ask him. So Rav Shiner sees that my son and I are having a little dispute. And he says, well, what's the matter? What does your son want? I said, Rosh Hashiva, I'm very embarrassed to ask. I said, my son wants a picture with the Rosh Hashiva. But I told him it's not appropriate. He said, sure, why not? He tells my son, come over here, come to my bed. So my son walks over to the bed, and he's like a little bit standoffish, and the Rosh Hashiva says, come closer, don't worry, I don't bite, come. And he now, at this point, he really props himself up in the bed so that he can take the picture appropriately. And he says, no, come. And the boy, my son, goes back. And I'm taking a picture, and the two of them, these big grin smiles on their face. Wow, what a picture. Now, the other father, this other person that had taken us there, was there with one of his little children. And he says, Rosh Hashiva, could my daughter and I also get a picture? Sure, come. He goes like this, come onto the bed. And so now this father, with his little 3 or 4-year-old daughter, sits down on the bed together with the Rosh Hashiva, and I'm taking a picture. Wow, a beautiful picture. It's amazing. My son got a picture. He got a beautiful. We're getting ready to leave. And the Shiva looks at my son. He says, you're not very nice. My son says, what? Then he looks at this other fellow. He says, you're also not very nice. What? The Shiva thinks I'm not nice. And he says to me, I said, you got a picture? And you got a picture with me? But your Tati didn't get a picture with me. Now you take the camera, let your Tati get a picture. And so then I walk over and I sit down on the bed, and the Yeshiva is smiling ear to ear. An almost 90-year-old man, sick in bed for the whole week, doesn't really know me. Takes a beautiful picture that is encased in our photo album for all of eternity of the lesson of what AHAVAS YISRAEL, loving your fellow Jew, is. Do you think that's easy? To let a stranger come into your bedroom while you're in your pajamas and you just want to rest? But if Bishvili Nivra Olam, the whole world was created for me. And every person is an opportunity to work on myself, to become greater, to transcend my bad midos, to become the tzaddik or tzaddikas that I could become. Then that love trumps everything else. And I don't get upset. I don't get annoyed. I'm grateful that Hashem has given me these opportunities in life. So before Shivasa B'Tammuz comes upon us, and that will be the 3 weeks where everybody's working on AHAVAS YISRAEL, loving your fellow Jew, remember, you have the most to gain. The growth that you could make as an individual during the 3 weeks, the midos, ra'os, the bad midos that you can conquer and that you could break and you could change during the 3 weeks, the levels of reaching your tafkid, your purpose of why HaKadosh Baruch Hu put you into this world during the 3 weeks is enormous. if you do it in the right way. And if we do that, then just like the Ramchal writes in the Mesilas Yesharim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu only loves those that love his children. And the greater that your love is for Klal Yisrael, the greater is his love going to be for you. So whatever it is that you need, whatever brachas you are yearning for, whatever simchas that you are dreaming is right around the corner, the more love you show to his children, the more love he's going to show to you. And Bez Hashem, in that zechus, we should not have to sit on the floor this year on Tisha B'Av. And you should be zeich to all the brachas min hashemayim. And in Yitz Hashem, this year should grow not in Pico Robertson next to the burritos and the frozen yogurt, but rather next to the Kaisel Hamaravi, where there will be the binyan by Shlisi, the building of the Beis HaMikdash, B'mheira B'yameinu.